I'm Ray Fletcher. I joined the chorus in 2015 as a lower bass. I'm originally from Bowie, Maryland, by way of the world.
Tell me more about the world. I like that story.
Because my dad worked for the government, we were stationed. Well, he was stationed a couple of times around the world, but I lived in England from when I was 4 to 7. And then at 16, I left Maryland, went to boarding school in Rome while they were stationed in Saudi Arabia. So I spent my summers working as a lifeguard at a pool in Rome, and I mean in Saudi Arabia, and the rest of the year I was in Rome enjoying Europe.
Amazing. And then after college, you ended up in the Navy.
Yeah, I was a political science major, so of course that meant I really had nothing I could do in real life. So I joined the Navy out of college to fly with the Navy. So I yeah did the officer and a gentleman kind of thing. If you remember the movie, that's the same program pretty much that you go through, and then flew Desert Shield, Desert Storm. Got out of active duty, and finished up the rest of my 20 years as a reservist, teaching other people to fly the same plane.
So you said before you joined the chorus, the most recent time you'd sung was with the Navy. Tell me about.
And when I was in the training command, they had a choir called the Naval Air Training Command Choir. We would sing at different events. Sang at a NASCAR event at the Charlotte 600, and most notably, the last event I sang with them was the Miss USA pageant in 1988 in El Paso, Texas, and got to escort Miss Tennessee in the evening gown competition while lip syncing to the recording that we'd made the day before of a song called Alone Up There. It was a medley with Lady in Red.
Beautiful.
Miss Tennessee was not wearing red, though.
Huh, what was she wearing?
She was wearing more of an off-white gown, I want to say. I would have to go back to the video of it to remember exactly what it was.
Interesting. So, what led you to the chorus in the first place?
I moved up to San Francisco in 2013 for a job, and I didn't really know anybody up here. I knew people at work. They weren't necessarily in my friend group, and so I was slowly making friends, but I hadn't sung in forever, and I had heard about San Francisco Gay Men's Chorus, and I had tried for a little while there to figure out how to do auditions. It wasn't until a friend of my now husband, who was in the chorus, let him know when the auditions were so I could audition and join the chorus in 2015.
Amazing. Do you remember your audition?
I do. Being a lower bass, I kind of gamed the system, knowing that they would want to hear my bass notes. So I transposed stars from Les Miserables. I transposed it down a few steps so that within 4 bars, I hit a nice low D. They stopped me at that point and said, "Thank you for coming." So yeah, I knew what they wanted to hear.
Nice. Good job. What was that first rehearsal like?
Well, they have you do the rehearsals before the auditions, and I'd gone to a couple of those where you go in, they give you a name tag, and you go sit next to somebody in the group that you think you're going to be in. I didn't understand the lower upper bass kind of thing at that time, the fact that we have 8 sections instead of 4. So I was sitting with upper basses, and there were just a lot of people all around me, and it's a big room, but it was full. And I remember thinking that I have never been in any kind of singing group that was this big. Community chorus when I was back in elementary school was big, but not this big. So that's what I remember, being kind of overwhelmed with how many people there were.
You mentioned that you were recently out when you came to the chorus.
Yes. So I, kind of as background to why, my name is Ray, and apparently somebody in 5th grade clued into the idea that it rhymed with gay. And this was before puberty. And so my nickname for the next few years, from the bullies and all the bully adjacent people, was Gay Ray. Made my life in school pretty much hell. And looking back on it, I think that's why I never allowed myself to really question my sexuality, think about my sexuality. And so it wasn't until I was well into my 40s that I started really questioning and noticing that I thought certain ways. And so basically 48 is when I really figured it out. I told my wife at the time, I said, it's waited this long, I'm already 48, screw it, I'll live the rest of my life in the closet. She said, no, thank you. I appreciate the offer. But you need to go do you. So my wife was very supportive of it. My kids were very supportive of it. And so I'm very lucky in that regard. So I got the job in the San Francisco area, moved up here, and started basically a second chapter in my life up here.
What a gift from your family.
Very, very much so.
What was that first year like for you in the chorus? What was the difference between the end of the first season and when you first joined?
Most importantly was getting comfortable with everybody. I mean, I'm kind of an outgoing-ish person anyway, so I don't usually have trouble making friends. I do have trouble remembering names, and with that many people, I spend a lot of time looking at Facebook before I go to an event to make sure that I remember somebody's name as much as possible. But that was the biggest thing through the year, from when I first started to the end of that season, was getting to know people, getting to know that it wasn't as daunting as it seemed, getting comfortable with what I will and won't do, as far as volunteering and when I'm comfortable giving of my time, and when I know I need to let somebody else do it because they're better at it. It was a good year to get to know everybody. I even ended up joining a small ensemble in the spring of that year because I was feeling comfortable enough to do that too.
Looking back on your whole time in the chorus from 2015 to now, what's been most rewarding?
I think the music is beautiful, and I love when we perform and get wonderful feedback. I love performing with the stars we've been able to perform with. But the most rewarding thing for me is our outreach mission are getting into the community, being part of the community, either the local community or the worldwide community, and not just singing, but using our voice for hopefully change. The most important thing that we've done in the last couple of years has been started the rhythm program, reaching youth through music, because we are there are kids in school today who, although they overall probably have it better than when I was in school, their age, they don't necessarily know that. They know their reality. Their reality is they might be getting bullied. They might be questioning their sexuality or any other aspect of their life. And it's really easy for adults to say it gets better, but that means nothing at that age, because everything revolves around you. It can't be getting better because it hasn't gotten better today. And then we go into the schools and we tell the stories that we tell in that program of our own troubles or happinesses that have come, that I think I see connections. I see the kids believing us is really what it comes down to. We're showing ourselves to be open enough to share these stories, and they believe it better than if it was just a recording.
Have you had any particularly memorable conversations or experiences at Rhythm?
I think the one that always stands out is the young person who literally after the concert and before we had lunch with them had called home to tell their parents. I don't recommend that for everyone, but it definitely struck a chord because something about the performance let them know, okay, today's the day. I'm not going to feel any better than I feel today, so I'm just gonna do it. And the report was that it was well received. It wasn't dead silence on the other end of the phone. So I am very hopeful for this generation to be able to live in a world that is so much better moving forward.
If there's a young queer person out there watching this who shares some part of their background with you, what would you tell them?
The most important thing is that I found was that you need to find your people. And that doesn't mean get popular so that they find you. It means you have to find somebody who has the same interests. In my case, I had tried, with the bullying, I had tried everything that I thought of, which was hide away, not let anybody know any of my secrets or anything that I thought, or that I was into music theater, God forbid. And that wasn't working. It made me miserable. And in 9th grade, I finally said to heck with it. And turns out that I had friends right there. The ones who wanted to help build sets with me for the theater. One of whom came to see us in South Carolina for our Lavender Pen tour some 35 years after school. You find those people, and then together you'll find another one and another one, and eventually you have your group that you feel comfortable with, and that will help you get through the rest of it. You can't fix the bullies. You can't fix stupid. You can just be your best self, and you can do that when you've got your people.